In this video, I'm going to go through how to create a diagram tile to illustrate data on a dashboard. Here you can see a variety of diagram tiles that were created right here in Decisions to give you an idea of what some of the possibilities are for them. When creating a diagram tile, you'll need to create two flows. The first is a diagram tile flow. This tells Decisions what the tile is going to look like. Second, you'll need to create an input data flow in order to tell the diagram tile where it gets any input data it's expecting. Let's go to the Designer Studio and get started. When creating a diagram tile, it's best to start in the Page Designer on the page you would like to display it on. Go to your page elements and navigate to the Tiles category and drag and drop the tile for a diagram tile onto your page. Notice in the Properties panel that the diagram tile flow area is displayed, where we can simply click Create and give this a name. Let's call ours Accounts Count Flow. The diagram tile flow is a blank slate. Notice on the Properties panel that the diagram tile input is at the top. This is for you to define any type of data that might be dynamic. Let's click Show Editor and add the Accounts Count, which is an integer. Now that we have our input data, let's go to the Steps toolbox and actually build out what we want this tile to look like. Under Charts, we're going to pick a semicircle. And when I bring it over to the diagram tile, I'm going to resize it and go to the Properties tab. Here I can set some properties like clearing out the border, or in this case, for the inputs, we want to define what is the upper limit. In other words, what is the value at the very upper end. Let's make ours a constant and say it's 30. For value, it's saying what is the value that should be colored in. Here, let's select from the flow and use the accounts count that we just created a moment ago. Next, we're going to go back to the Steps toolbox and grab, underneath Drawing, some labels. Let's bring a large label over and drop it underneath. Here, we're going to say Accounts in System. Let's add one more large label and bring it into the center of our semicircle. For this label, we wanted to show a dynamic value of how many accounts are in the system. So I'm going to go to the Properties panel and scroll down, and you'll see Label from Data. That opens up a new item where we have an input called Text, and we define where we want this data to come from. In this case, we're going to select from Flow and pick the Accounts Count that we made earlier. Now let's close and save our diagram tile flow. It brings us right back into our page. And now you'll notice under the Properties panel that we have an input data flow. This is where we can create where we're going to get the accounts count. Let's click Edit. Here in our input flow, we're going to build a flow that finds the data that we want to display on our tile. For our situation, we're just going to use a single Fetch Entity step to look at the number of accounts in our system. Since we need to know the number of accounts in our system, we're going to go for the type and go to an All search and search for accounts. When I select accounts, we're going to leave it like that, connect those no results and the results path to our end step, and then simply click on the end step where we automatically have the accounts count as an output. We're going to select from the flow and pick the Entity Results Count to show the count of accounts in this system. Once this is done, we can hit Close and Save. Now we can click Preview and actually preview our diagram tile to show the actual value for the accounts in the system. Hopefully this gives you a good idea of how to create a diagram tile here in Decisions. Feel free to reach out to support@decisions.com if you run into any issues or have any questions.